Hello everybody, and welcome to my channel. My name is Alex, Alex R. And today I have tried to make this video many times, as this sometimes happens when you film. Do you ever get so overwhelmed by the day and your body gets so keyed up that you have two paths? You're either gonna have a breakdown or you just let go completely, detach, fall into the abyss, and almost reach a kind of nirvana. I'm at the nirvana stage where it's just like, hey, I don't got any energy for anything. Except for coffee. There's always energy for coffee. And in fact, coffee can kind of help in these moments. It's like, this is for me. Okay? Speaking of for me, I've got a little cup of coffee for me, and I've got a cup of coffee for you. Now I realized it's not fair. I have more oat milk than you do, so I'm gonna correct that. You just need a phone. Because I have some, and it's not fair that you don't. It just adds a little bit of shush. You see, now you have a little layer of foam, just like I do, and that feels right to me. So, okay, you want this? You can take your time with that. Don't feel like you have to rush. But coffee. We can rest easy with our coffees. It actually got me thinking. There's a lot of noise today, and it's all adding to the sense of my overwhelm, but I reflect it away, whatever. Are you a noise trying to get me? You think you're gonna make me stop filming? Freak. I'm just kinda over today. But it made me think of something, actually. When you're so stressed that you're like, what's the worst you're gonna do? Fire me? When you're at that stage where you're like, I dare you to fire me, to your job. There's a type of content that I've been seeing on my feeds, various feeds. It's a nasty word, isn't it? My feed. Anyway, my nasty little feed is showing me actually a really compelling kind of content. I don't know if it shows up on your pages, but it'll be like videos of people talking about pretty much like, this is what life is about. We're supposed to be picking berries and laying out in the sun, just being like a person, having friends, and, hooking up with people or whatever. And it's pretty compelling to me. I look at it and I'm like, yeah, But it got me thinking a lot. Well, that did, and this little cup of coffee. Whenever I drink out of a little cup of coffee, I feel very French, or like a Spanish intellectual, or like I'm Anthony Bourdain. And I was thinking about these kind of archetypes and aesthetics that compel me. And I wanted to talk about that really quickly. So, the train is about to come. I'll let it pass. And I'm going to edit this video around the train. So let me do a little transition, but I'll make it special. Ready? How was that for the transition? Did you enjoy that? Anything can happen on days like today where you're just fed up. Anything can happen. And who knows? What the heck was that? I just summoned something. But what? Okay. We're working with some chaotic cosmic energy today. I don't know who out there is a witch, an astrologer, or I don't know, someone's weird aunt or uncle. But maybe you have an explanation for what the heck's going on today, because I don't. But I've been noticing multiple kinds of content on my feed. I've talked before about the intellectual kind of stuff that I get, because I like reading, like Harry Potter, and I like all that stuff. So of course I get the dark academia, whatever. But I also get kind of the French intellectual, the people who write with a quill and ink, that kind of thing. And this fascinates me. These kind of two pillars of imagination of what life can be like. You've got the chain smoking, drinking, intellectual, a kind of the tortured poet. And then you've got the kind of Zen, communal knowledge, ease. Where you just kind of let go of these attachments, probably to political and economic contexts, which cause suffering. So, that kind of fascinates me. Both types of imagery really animate me. They animate me. They animate this sense of self-mythology that is in me, and they kind of inspire me to get up to stuff. It makes me want to inhabit these kind of imaginations, specifically. But what does it mean to want both? Like, I want to inhabit the kind of sharp intellect, but then I also have to, I can't sustain this. And I reach a point like today where I take the coffee from this image and I peace out, and I want to go lay outside, and I want to say goodbye to this kind of structure and just go be with real people out in what is the quote-unquote real world. Sometimes the academic world, the industrial world, it doesn't feel real, right? But I kind of want both in this way. I kind of want the intensity, and then I want to let go. That is a slight imbalance, in my personal opinion. It points to an imbalance. And maybe a kind of misunderstanding or a misguidedness. And I was thinking about Anthony Bourdain. Anthony Bourdain, actually. Especially on a day like today, I think about Anthony Bourdain. Where, if I'm being overcooked intellectual about this, which I am, I would want to put, on the left, the kind of sharp intellectual, and on the right, kind of the Zen spirit image of Zen living. I would put Anthony Bourdain in the middle of these things. I would put him in the middle because, in my view, there's the intellectual, the Zen practitioner, whatever, the spiritual, and then there's this archetype of the adventurer between the intellect and the kind of full spirit is the adventure. And Anthony Bourdain really walked this tightrope between them all the time, from a place of high competency but also tension, in a way that was very human and relatable to a lot of people. So he brought the complexity and the suffering of the world, the intellectual world of the writer, of Hollywood, industrial chef, that kind of thing, but also brought to the forefront of our collective imagination, the real lived image of the human being, to be in culture, and to be tasting food, and to be present in the moment with people and to be compassionate. He brought both in a way that's quite interesting. And of course, well loved. He had a tattoo, I believe, in Greek. It said something like, I am certain of nothing. I am certain of nothing. And he really embodied that, right? And in that way, he was a trustworthy guide for so many people, because he would go into cultures and he doesn't know anything. He's kind of shown the way. And that is kind of this bridge, that sentiment between the kind of suffering intellectual and the kind of ease and joy of Zen. I am certain of nothing. But you go forward in the spirit of an adventurer, and you experience, and you stay present, and you stay mindful. Of course, with Anthony Bourdain, he is a good and sobering reminder that, the image of a life being lived is not the same thing as the life being lived. And the image of pain is not the same thing as actual pain. And he lived with pain. But in kind of navigating these flat images of life, these archetypes that inspire me as a real 4D person in the world who then has to live that out, I come back to those spice of life questions, that are kind of imbalanced. Yeah, I've got the Zen, I want to let go of everything, but also I'm kind of romanticizing having coffee and thinking all the time and reading all the time and being very critical and that type of thing. I come back and I look at this spectrum that I've made of the intellectual, the adventurer, and the Zen practitioner, all in this line. And I can see that there is ease and goodwill and positive things in all of them. Because you can be quite Zen or restful or intentional or conscious and still have an outcome like a book or a YouTube series or an adventure. You can have an adventure. I think about the concept of touching things very deeply. All three touch things very deeply. So the intellectual touches that moment of insight. They touch that reckoning. They touch the idea. They really live in the idea. When they smoke, it's with their breath. When they drink the coffee, they feel that presence come to the front. The adventurer feels things deeply. They touch reality deeply. They suspend their identity to be fully present somewhere, as does the Zen practitioner, right? So that makes all of these images compelling in their potency, because they feel so different. And I think that potency is why I am animated by all three. The suffering that might be in any of this is suffering that doesn't have to come with it. You don't have to have that. You can remove that from the imagination that we have. Suffering is a potent emotion, but so is joy. And you don't need to be dragged down. I hope what I'm saying is making sense. In my head, it kind of does. Where I think that the animating power of these archetypes comes from that sense of potency and power. And suffering is very alluring, because it makes you feel things. It's powerful. But you don't need to take that on. You don't need to take that on. You should be realistic about it and avoid the romanticization, if that's the word, of it. So, a final major idea that I was thinking about is that part of why I believe people consume, like in a huge amount, this lifestyle content, it's not just because of brain rot or like the fact that it's, a dopamine scroll of bright colors and it's like a fly in honey, you can't get out of it. But it's because I think that it's the actual power of lifestyle content to cause the viewer to either perceive a potential change in state, or that the content actually causes us change in state. And it's the state change or the potential for a state change that keeps you coming back. I could potentially change from this to that, this to that, this to that. That is very interesting to me, because on one hand, I think that automatically situates you in an idea of yourself that may or may not be true. And then you can fall into like the potential for glamorizing and 2Difying a 4D experience that maybe you have no business living out, right? It's hard to say, because that type of content I know has led to positive behavior changes in me. So sometimes watching lifestyle content makes me want to relax more, or eat healthily, or more mindfully. It makes me want to, like today, when I'm having just one of those really deeply off days, it helps me feel comfortable taking some time for myself and focusing on what matters to me. And that feels good. That caused a state change. It caused a change in my attitude. It helped me have a can-do attitude. And some of that content might make me feel bad and might make me feel heavy and might not be, for me. So, too much kind of taking in that type of stuff can be negative. It can make you feel heavy. It can make you feel bad about your perceived current state. But I believe that it's the potential for change. That's what we like. And I think that's sometimes what keeps us watching. Yeah, I have been thinking of those times as diversifying moments. Diversifying moments when your sense of self is alleviated by a diversifying element. Something that kind of shoves you a centimeter to the left or the right, and keeps your own attachment to your identity flexible. It can feel quite free, so that you can't get frozen and really locked in. So being motivated by images and archetypes makes sense to me. We like an image, but being careful not to overly identify with anything, I think, is the key, because that can lead to true pain in a person. It's not, hold on. I think we hang on to slivers of our identity with really limited perspective sometimes. And exposure to content in this strange way keeps our brain could I do that? Could I be that? Exploring those potentials. Yeah, I think it's up to us always to be mindful and be present. So that we don't slip too far in either direction. I should say too, I got an email that really inspired a lot of my thinking on this as well, from someone who asked if I was into Buddhism at all, and sent me an amazing channel, which I'll link in the description. But that really got me thinking about, like, what's this attachment to the kind of edgy suffering of certain imaginations. Really, that's an over-attachment to that type of intensity. You can replace that intensity with true joy, where you can touch things deeply. Even if you choose to one day pursue work or a study, or if you say, screw this, I'm going to go connect with nature. Across all of that can be a value of really allowing joy and easing pain that comes from identifying too far, too much with a construct, with something too frozen or too flat. So that email, that conversation really helped me as I was thinking about this. I always love it when that happens. I can get thrown into like a new tangent. So on a day like today, the Zen content is very appealing, and I take the joy, though, across all these archetypes of really touching something deeply, and I have to let go of these other things that are knocking at my door because I don't have the energy, I don't have the time, and the day is not even allowing some of them. So I'm just focusing on touching coffee very deeply and sharing this space and these ideas with you today, and just being here right now. And that is plenty. That is enough. That is making me happy. If I got fired today, I would still be back on YouTube, because at the end of the day, it isn't that deep. A lot of these things are not that deep. And I'm very resilient. So making this video, making a coffee, is just that little practice of resilience. So yeah, I think that's what I take away from all of these images. I hope that made sense. I actually have no idea, and I never do. And then it was relaxing. Now, I have kind of this part of the video towards the end is one of my favorite parts of the video. Metrically, when I look at metrics, like most people on YouTube, I see that almost, like, hardly anyone watches this part of the video. So I kind of like it in a weird way. Existentially, this becomes like a quieter part of the video for me, and I kind of just chill a little bit, which I really appreciate. I don't have that much coffee left in my little cup. Yeah, I'm very excited to go back to school. That happens in the fall. And that's not fun. So I'm getting burnt out. And I encourage you, if you start feeling overwhelmed at all ever, that you can find some moments to relax and to kind of chill. And anything that, like, you can afford to say goodbye to, consider it. Consider saying goodbye to it. Because that always feels really good, just to be like, I'm not doing that, I'll have to do that. So, that's it for this overcooked intellectual video. Bit of a hangout, if you will. Hope you liked your coffee. If you don't finish it, I'm going to. I have more. I don't have any more oat milk, but I have more coffee. In thinking about more content, oh, I hate these words. My feed content. But I would like to make a longer video about awkwardness and clothing. I think I'm gonna do that. So maybe not the next video, but we'll see. Doesn't matter. I am going to say no to things so that I can make more ASMR videos, because I like making them twice a week. So I've been too busy to do that, but I sense a turning. I don't know if the witches or the astrologers are still watching, but I don't know what's going on. But I sense a bit of like a positive chaos where I'm about to throw my job to the wind and peace out for 2 months while I just make ASMR videos and live life. And then go to school, and I don't know what's gonna happen. Nobody does. But that's part of being the adventurer. So we'll do that with coffee every single day, multiple times a day, and just keep going with it. So thank you so much for watching. Oh, a train's coming. Alright, the train is going. And now I can tell you a proper goodbye. And then I hope that no matter where you are tonight, that you're able to have some peace and some quiet, some rest, because you deserve